Hi, this is Doug from 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast, and welcome to another edition of the ChickenHead Chronicles. The other day, I had an opportunity to pick up a TI99 4A computer for a really great price from a guy selling it off Craigslist here. Came with a couple of games. I'll show you those in a minute. Came with a set of joysticks, power supply, and I couldn't beat the price. Now, I'd never really been interested in a TI back in the early 80s when I first started getting into the computers. I knew what they were, I respected them, I knew that they were good machines, but I was a Commodore guy through and through. From my first exposure, when I saw a muck being played on a Commodore VIC-20 in 1981 at a county fair, until today. I'm a Commodore guy through and through, I'll admit that. But I certainly don't deny that other computers have their advantages. I never really had any issues with any of the competitive computers. I had pals back in the 80s that had Cocos, friends who had the TRS-80s, poor guys, and other equipment back then. It was all fine, it all did the job. Now that I own my own TI99 4A, I do have a newfound appreciation for it, and I do look forward to collecting for it and upgrading the little guy, making it work, probably put a tape drive interface on there. I'd love to get a hold of one of those speech synthesizer cartridges. Those are actually really cool. But today we're going to talk about the core machine without any of the expansion. I thought it would be fun to go head-to-head against one of the TI99 4A's biggest competitors in the market, the Commodore VIC-20. Both of them were released about the same time. Both of them actually sold for about the same length of time, from 81 until about 84. Now, when the Commodore 64 came out, it just blew the TI-99 out of the water. So I'm comparing it with what it was competitive against back in its heyday. My guess is that the TI-99 4A never really wanted to be a competitor in the low end of the computer market. They probably wanted to compete against the profitable Apple II line that was still selling for a reasonable amount of money, but that's not what happened. They got into a vicious price war with Commodore. Jack Tramiel, that was one of his philosophies, is slaughter your competitors with prices. So a devastating price war ensued, and TI was able to hold its own against the VIC-20 for several years, and they sold a respectable 2.5 million units from 1981 to 1984. That's nothing to sneeze at. But it was never profitable for them after the first year or so. They lost money on almost everything they made, and so they closed up shop on the whole TI-99 line in 1984. So in 1982, when I was a young 12-year-old kid and I was begging my mother for a computer, the TI-99 4A would have been one of them that was in the marketplace that I would have been looking at. We'd look at the Ataris, we'd look at the Commodores, TI-99 4A. So what would make a person choose a Commodore VIC-20 over TI-99 4A? That's what we're going to explore right now. Now, I won't deny it. The specs on the TI-99 4A blow the VIC-20 away. The TI was the first home computer with an actual 16-bit CPU running at a whopping 3 megahertz, when everyone else in the market was 8-bit at 1 or 2 megahertz. The data bus and all other chips were limited to 8 bits, but the CPU and 256 bytes of static RAM were running on a 16-bit bus. It had a nice 16K of memory available to BASIC. Now, the VIC-20, on the other hand, had a 6502 8-bit CPU running at 1 megahertz and a tiny 5 kilobytes of static RAM. The raw specs speak for themselves, and this round goes to the TI-99 4A. Physical beauty means a lot, even in the computer industry, and the 80s was a time when some really gorgeous computers came out. And the TI was one of them. The aluminum finish is actually really beautiful, and the lines and the edges and even the cartridge slot here is just truly unique. It actually looks really good. Not cluttered on the sides at at all. We've got a nice expansion slot over here that we'll talk about in a little bit. Not cluttered in the back. All in all, it's a beautiful, beautiful machine. The VIC-20, while also truly a beautiful machine, of course has the traditional bread box look. Now, it was unique back in the day, but I will just have to admit that it doesn't look quite as sharp and cool as the TI-99 4A. If you hold those up side by side, that just looks like a cooler computer. So this round goes to the TI-99 4A. Price means a lot too, and not just the initial purchase price of the machine, but the cost of peripherals too. The VIC-20 was released at $299.95 and quickly fell to much less than that after only a year in the market. Peripherals like the VIC modem were around $100, and even the disk drive was around $250. Even a fully decked out VIC-20 could be had for around $500 to $600 with some really great peripherals. The TI came out about $525, but dropped not long after. But the peripherals were quite expensive. A modem could cost anywhere from $200 to $350, and the disk drives were much, much more than the 1540 drives, probably in the order of $450, $500. A decked out TI-99 4A would probably be closer to $900 to $1,200. The TI also had a clever way of daisy chaining peripherals on the right side. Clever, as you can see in this picture, but soon could get out of hand. The VIC-20 had different ports for different expansions, a serial daisy chain interface for drives and printers, a serial interface for modems and other peripherals, and the cartridge slot, of course. The VIC-20 wins this round. I paid $89 for mine in 1982. The VIC-20 broke ground by being one of the first affordable color computers. It could create some beautiful graphics for sure, but it was limited by its low-resolution 22-column display and was limited to 8 foregrounds and 16 background colors, 16 colors in total. The TI has much nicer graphics capability, offering a 32-column or even a 40-column mode with 16 colors. This allowed for higher resolution displays and better-looking games. Take a look at the Pac-Man on the TI versus Jelly Monsters on the VIC-20. And then these two versions of Donkey Kong. TI has the edge here in graphics for sure, so TI wins this round. Sound was vital to these early machines, and both had better sound than most other machines besides the Atari. The TI might have slightly better audio specs, but listening to several games, there seemed to be a real issue with audio keeping up with the games. The VIC-20 had maybe slightly less specs in the audio department, but it still sounded great, but it does a better job at keeping the audio up with the current game that's being played. So I'm going to have to call this one a draw, half a point for each. Let's talk about keyboards a little bit, and for this part, I'm going to be channeling my inner Robin from 8-Bit Show and Tell. Computers are meant to be typed on, so a good keyboard is vital. Both machines have a nice feeling keyboard for sure. The TI keyboard is smaller with fewer keys, but it feels good when you're typing. Where it does drop the ball is with standardization. If you look at the TI keyboard, there are a lot of extra symbols like back, erase, quit, clear, insert, delete that require you to hold down function keys to access them. That's fine, and that would be okay if they worked in a normal way. But when you're actually using the keyboard, they just don't work the way you'd expect. For example, I have a bunch of nonsense written up on the screen here. So obviously, I want to go back and erase that nonsense. So I'll hit function, delete. No, that doesn't do anything. How about I use these cursor keys to go back and then delete? Okay, that works. Now, maybe I need to erase it. So that works okay. But what it doesn't do is allow you to use the cursor keys like you would with the Commodore VIC-20, where you can go up and down and edit right on the screen. And some of these keys are downright dangerous. Like, let's say you've got a cute little basic program here, 10, print, quote hello. There's the quote key hidden under the P. That doesn't work. So let's do function backspace, then delete, and then function P. Oh my goodness. Hello world. But I'll misspell world. Okay. Now, of course, on the Commodore VIC-20, you misspell something. Okay, just cursor up, take care of it. No problem at all. Nope, doesn't do a thing. So let's relist the program. And now let's go back and fix the, oh, you can't do it. Kinda useless. The VIC-20, on the other hand, has a gorgeous keyboard with almost every key that you need, like real cursor keys here, even though you have to shift them to get around in it. Function keys, which are all programmable. Different programs can do different things. And truthfully, it's just easier to use. While on the topic of the keyboards, the VIC-20 has actual uppercase and lowercase characters. Now, they don't work perfect, and it's sometimes difficult to mix the two of them together, but you certainly can do it. True upper and lowercase characters. And, of course, it has all these cool PETSCII characters that you can use in your own basic programs to do very clever things with the integrated graphics. You can either hit the Commodore key or the Shift key to access the PETSCII graphics. The other cool feature is you can change the text color very easily, which is something you cannot do on the TI99 4A. You've got the same color background that you're going to be typing on there. So on the TI99 4A, upper and lowercase characters don't really exist. For example, here's uppercase characters, and here's lowercase characters. They're just tinier versions of the same character set, which is rather odd. And changing colors, if you don't like the colors of your text on the screen, you just can't do it. You can change them in BASIC for programs that you're writing, but on the main interface, you can't really do it. So, VIC-20 wins the keyboard round very easily. Let's talk about games. Like every other kid in America, I used my computer a lot for games. The TI, without a doubt, had some gorgeous looking games. Think about the version of Pac-Man and Donkey Kong we looked at earlier. Visually superior in every way to the VIC-20. But now, take a look at this video and watch how they actually play. This is Pac-Man on the TI99 4A. This is Jelly Monsters on the VIC-20, which was a blatant ripoff of Pac-Man made by Commodore. There's a cool story behind it too. This was apparently pretty common in TI games. Everything was just so slow. The VIC-20 was much faster, and therefore the games actually felt more fun. Second, the TI was notorious for not wanting third parties to program for their systems. A home program game that you type in BASIC on the TI, they were much worse than any home program games on the VIC-20. So when you're making a game for yourself and trading it with your friends, it's going to be fairly lousy on the TI. It's going to be pretty awesome with the VIC-20. There were also issues with the programming languages, which I'll cover in a moment. I would guess there were about 300 or 400 games and programs for the VIC-20, and about 100 on the TI99 4A. The VIC-20 games, to be perfectly honest, just seem more fun to play. So the VIC-20 wins this round, but not by too much. The basic programming language. The way so many of us started out back in the day was programming in BASIC. It's really a nice language and quite powerful. The VIC-20 was originally a Microsoft BASIC product, and used a fairly generic version of it. That's why there's no commands to handle graphics and sound, and those require poke statements to access them. The TI has a custom version of BASIC, It does have dedicated video and audio commands, making access to video and audio a little bit easier. Now, so this, in conjunction with a 3 MHz 16-bit CPU and 16K of memory, should make the TI awesome to program and blazingly fast. Let's take a look at a quick basic program to count to 1,000 and print the results on a screen. Exactly the same program on both machines. So we'll start it on the TI. Zoom! And we'll start the same thing on the VIC-20. And the VIC-20 is eating the TI's lunch when it comes to this basic program. By the time we're up to about 140 here, we're already pretty much done on the VIC-20. We'll just let that run again and prove my point. TI Basic is slow, incredibly slow, much slower than VIC-20 Basic. This is apparently due to how Basic is interpreted on the TI. TI Basic has very limited access to some of the best graphic modes too. So for example, the TI can handle a 40-column graphics mode in 16 color, but you cannot access it in Basic. It's just impossible to do. So you're limited to what you can do in the Basic language here. Where on the VIC-20, any mode the VIC-20 has, there's absolutely ways for Basic to program it. Now there are add-on cartridges for the TI99 that you can get that makes this version of Basic better and faster, but the core Basic built into the two, there's absolutely no competition. It's also much easier to create and edit things in your Basic programs on a VIC-20, like I showed you with the keyboard demo. You just go on up there and you edit them, make your changes, boom, you're done. With the TI, it takes 2 or 3 times as long. So, being the VIC-20 Basic is so much faster and so much more versatile, it wins the Basic battle hands down. So what is the absolute most important thing that we can consider when looking at which computer is the better investment in 1982? It all comes down to the spokesperson. The TI did a nice job by hiring the 1982 Bill Cosby. Certainly wouldn't work with the 2019 Bill Cosby. But Commodore had William freaking Shatner, Captain James Tiberius Kirk himself. Now, if Shatner says, buy a computer, you buy a computer. And that 2-finger tap on the VIC-20? Classic. Stick to Jello pudding, Bill. So what's the verdict here? Now, according to this very, very scientific survey, the VIC-20 wins 5.5 points to 3.5 points. This does not make the TI99 4A a bad computer. On the contrary, it's quite nice and I like it quite a bit. But the VIC-20 edges it out in some important areas like ease of use and programming potential. I don't regret for a minute owning a VIC-20 from when I was a kid. But if I had picked up a TI99 4A instead, I probably would have been perfectly happy and my life probably would have gone a little different direction. I do think the TI99 4A would have been better off if it used an actual 8-bit CPU. It would have reduced the number of wait states needed to convert from 8 to 16-bit when you're programming in there and it's switching things back and forth from memory. It's a neat talking point saying it has a 16-bit CPU, but I don't think it provided a single advantage to the piece of equipment at all. It also would have been better with a faster implementation of the basic programming language, and if TI had just opened themselves up a little bit for other people to make software and hardware for it without going all crazy on them. I think they would have done a little bit better in the market. So I know a lot of TI99 4A lovers out there are going to tear apart my logic and tell me how much better their machine is than the VIC-20, and that's fine. Tear me apart, I don't mind. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the machine. But until next time, this is Doug from 10-Minute Texas Instrument 99 4A Computer Retrocast signing out. It just doesn't have the same ring to it, does it? I think I'll go back to the old name.